Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Sunday. I hope you're having a good weekend, wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Quiet weekend, of course, with no Arsenal because of the lack of FA Cup action this season, unfortunately, after that defeat to Manchester United. Plenty of football still to watch. I watched quite a few of the games yesterday, some decent ones. So, yeah, I hope you're having a good time. Sort of having a bit of downtime, isn't it? Rest and relaxation. I know the players are over in Dubai, supposed to be getting that at the moment, or sort of rest and relaxation. They are, of course, working over there as well. But I think we all need it, don't we? It's been a pretty draining start to the year, football-wise, and it's quite nice to not have to have too much to worry about for a week or so before that game against Leicester next Saturday. So the players still out in Dubai. They come back on Wednesday evening. They'll have one more training session at London Colney on Thursday, and do a bit of one on Friday before heading up to Leicester for that game. I'm guessing the press conference will be on Thursday this week with Mikel Arteta ahead of that game against Leicester. So we're going to look at what's going on in Dubai right now in today's show. I'm going to go through sort of 5 things that I think Mikel needs to prioritise while he's over. What he can get out this week. 5 of the really important things that he and Arsenal and the players can get out this week before coming home on Wednesday, and dive in headfirst into what's going to be a really, really brutal and difficult run-in, especially with the limited amount of players that Arsenal have right now. Because, look, we know last year when they went to Dubai, it was a fantastic success. Whatever they did over there, they came back and it was a completely different Arsenal team. The tired, lethargic-looking side that went to Dubai last season came back and just went on a remarkable run, won 16 of 18 games and were within a whisker of winning the Premier League title. Can something like that happen again? You have to say it's looking incredibly difficult just because of the sheer limited number of attacking options Arsenal now have and will have when they come back from Dubai, but who knows? So yeah, as I said, I'm going to look in today's show, look at sort of 5 things that I think Mikel and the players need to sort of prioritise and work on before they come back ready for Dubai. First thing, number 1, is, and I know this will probably wind a lot of people up because I've seen all the comments of, they shouldn't be having a holiday, they're getting rewarded for failure, which is frankly a load of rubbish. You know, they're not on holiday, they are having some downtime, but they are working over there. And if this can help over for the second half of the season, it is absolutely a worthwhile exercise. They're still training, they're just doing it in warm weather rather than in the cold over here. But so number 1 is just some rest and relaxation, because it's been such a demanding season, been such a mad January with, I think it was 11 games in 34 days they played at the start of the year. They do need to have some rest and relaxation. So while they need to work, and they will be working, it's the downtime I think is going to be incredibly important for these players, so they do come back refreshed and ready to go, because it's been a really draining time for them, no doubt about that. And we've seen the injuries have started to creep in again, muscle injuries as well, which is always a telltale sign of the sort of stress that the players are going through and on their bodies at the moment. So rest and relaxation, I think, is absolutely key to this 6 days, and they will get it. Mikel will allow them to do it. That's why he loves going over to Dubai, because it is a mixture of working hard but also relaxing as well. So number 1, in terms of the crucial stuff that needs to happen in this break, is a sort of recharging the batteries, rest and relaxation. Okay, number 2, get Ben White properly ready to go for when he comes back and get ready for that Leicester game. It's been a huge boost just seeing him in training. Now, Arsenal have missed Ben White massively. Kieran is a superb player, and he's been excellent this season. And he's, it's so lucky that Arsenal had him. So when Ben White was out, Timber has been able to step in the way he does. But having Ben White back is going to be a massive boost for Arsenal. He's such a good player. He's so important for this team. He's so important for that right-hand side. He's so important for Ben White, for Bukayo Saka when he comes back fit. Defensively, he's so important. Set pieces, he's so important. Getting Ben White ready to go during this week, so when he comes back, when the squad come back, when Arsenal go to Leicester at the weekend, that he is fit and available, maybe not to start, but to be involved again for the first time in such a long time. It's going to be absolutely massive. You can't underestimate the importance of having a fit Ben White, because we didn't even see Ben White fit in the first half of the season. It was so obvious that he was nursing this knee problem. He was playing through the pain. He was putting his body on the line for the team. And it was very, very obvious. If he can come back 100% now, and it's the Ben White that we saw last season or since he signed for Arsenal, that's going to be a massive boost. So, yeah, ensuring Ben White is ready to go at the end of this week is absolutely needs to be a key priority. Right, moving on to number 3, set piece routines. Now, last year when Arsenal went to Dubai, they made a big change for their set piece routines when they were over there and what they were working on. They came back and Declan Rice was suddenly Arsenal's set piece taker when it came to in swingers from that side and swinging it in with his right foot. Hadn't really seen it before, but when he came back, he was all over it. He was number one. And, Arsenal's set piece delivery and prowess increased massively as a result because he was superb and has been superb on that side. So, they worked on things over there and it came back and it was proved to be massively beneficial. They need to do that again, I think, because there's no doubt that in the last, I don't know, certainly since Saka's gone down, especially on that when they're coming in from that side that Saka usually takes it, Arsenal have not had the threat that they used to have, which is understandable because Saka was so important to it and his delivery was so important to it. They've been a little bit floaty from that side now, whether it be Odegaard taking it in or Vieira whipping it in. They don't quite have that danger, that whip that it does when Bukayo Saka takes them. So I think working on set piece deliveries again during this break, so when they can come back, they can prove to be a little bit more of a threat, certainly from that left-hand side, I think is really, really important because they've just looked like they've run out of ideas a little bit with set pieces in recent weeks. You saw it against Newcastle. They had plenty. They never really threatened. They went short a couple of times early on. They went short. Martinelli lost the ball. And I thought that was kind of indicative a little bit of they just seem to be running out of ideas. So I hope they really come up with some clever routines while they're over there and they can come back and prove to be a real threat. Because for all the focus on this and Arsenal set piece team, Stoke FC, all that rubbish, it was really, really important and beneficial, especially when you're out a lot of your attackers at the moment, which Arsenal are. You need to find ways to score and different ways to score. And set pieces is such a weapon for Arsenal. And the fact that that's just dipped a little bit, I think is pretty telling. So they need to work on that while they're over there. And I'm sure they will. And yeah, when they come back, hopefully they'll be very, very strong, especially from that side on the left-hand side. All right, number 4, kind of mixes into the number 1 really, but team bonding. This again is another massive thing that Arteta loves when he's over in Dubai, getting the team together, getting away from that sort of same old feeling of London Colney, of going in every day, doing the same things every day. When you go to a new place, it just changes the mood, changes the mentality a little bit. And team bonding is so important to what they do when they go on these breaks that I spoke about before. They do lots of games when they're over there, which people are sort of, roll their eyes at. But it is important. And players, I've spoken to players who say how important that is and how it brings everyone together and how they do it on the pre-season tours to America, how they've done it in Dubai before. It's really, really important. And as I said, at each team meeting that they have or at team meals that they have, they change who sits with who every single day. So no one sits together all the time. So no cliques are formed. It's all about getting the best out of each other. Even when they invite families, which they will do on these trips, there'll be a barbecue, for example. Normally when they go to LA or go to America, there'll always be one of the days will be a big team barbecue where all the families come. And again, there's games played and all that stuff. And I know, as I said, people roll their eyes at that and and don't really buy into it. A lot of people don't, but the players do. I know they do. They've told me they do. And, I think that'll be a really, really important part of this as well. So they come back and they're really strong as a unit, which I think is really, really important when you come back from this trip. So team bonding, number 4, I think is a really important thing. And then number 5, finally, coming up with a way to deal with the absence of this man for the next month or so. We spoke about it yesterday. You can see if you watch it on YouTube, Martinelli is in Dubai. There he is posting a picture from Dubai, but he's not training with the squad. He's injured, obviously. We know he's going to be out for a pretty significant amount of time. And his hamstring injury he picked up in the game against Newcastle just before the break. And Mikel's going to have to come up with a way of dealing with his absence, on top of the absence of Saka, on top of the absence of Jesus, and just a limited number of options he's had. I'm going to speak tomorrow in tomorrow's show because lots of you have been sending in questions. I've seen them about a possible shift in formation to cover for this. I thought that's a really interesting debating point. So we're going to talk about that in tomorrow's show, a potential shift in formation and whether that could be the sort of key thing for Arsenal over these next few weeks in the absence of some of these players. And I think it's really important that, and I'm sure it will be happening when they're over in Dubai, is they're going to be thinking hard about what best way to cope without Martinelli on top of the other injured players, because there is basically just 4 attackers now in the squad, and one of those is a 17-year-old who you need to try and protect. The other is a player who, let's face it, has barely been used by Mikel Arteta this season, even though he's been brought in as a new signing on loan in Raheem Sterling. And he's still barely been used, even in key games where you need goals. He's been left on the bench. So it's a player you don't trust, basically. And that's a fact. It's clear. But the fact he's not used him very much, he just doesn't trust Sterling, doesn't believe he can offer what he needs to be offered. But you're going to have to use him now a lot. So Arsenal are going to have to come up with a way that makes them effective, that allows them to win games in the absence of all these attackers. And I think that's something they're going to be, it's going to be crucial to when they come back from Dubai, seeing what they've worked on and what plans they've come up with that. So there you go. There are my 5 priorities Mikel Arteta needs to work on, the coaching staff need to work on, and to put into place during Dubai. Right, let's move on now to some of your questions and comments, shall we? We've got here one from Coachessa. Says, I'm sure they could have paid a fee to cut Vieira's loan short. Obviously, Arteta didn't want that. It makes me think that Vieira is done as an Arsenal player. They could have cut his loan short. There was a little brief period. I think it was before January. So it was before Jesus and it was before Martinelli's injury, that there was a little window where they could have recalled Fabio Vieira from his loan spell at Porto. So I don't think it was a case of when Martinelli went down, they were able to do that because the window had already passed where they could have recalled him. But yeah, the fact that they didn't, obviously after Saka went down, maybe that is indication that that they were quite happy for him to stay over there. And I don't think he's done necessarily as an Arsenal player. I would think it's probably likely that he's done as an Arsenal player, but I don't think it's an absolute certainty. The fact that Arsenal didn't include any sort of buy option in the loan, it was just a straight loan, says that they hadn't entirely washed their hands of him. They wanted to see how he did over there. Produced a lovely ball yesterday or the day before yesterday in Porto's 1-1 draw with Sporting in injury time to set up, well, it wasn't set up, but he was like the pre-assist for the equaliser, but it was all down to his lovely ball to the back post. Where a guy sort of got it on the volley and tapped it back across 6-yard box for someone to tap it in and make it 1-1 against Sporting. He came on as a sub, though. He's not a regular starter over at Porto. Hasn't made himself a regular starter at Porto in this loan spell, but he is doing some good things when he's over there. So yeah, is he done as an Arsenal player? I think that's probably the most likely thing, but I don't think it's an absolute foregone conclusion yet. And the fact that the loan spell didn't include a purchase option when most of Arsenal's other loan spells that they've agreed to do says that they weren't entirely ready to wash their hands of him just yet. 150 Mark said, Martinelli injured with all his tracking back and defensive work. Is it crazy to think about using Tierney on the left wing through his fitness, though his fitness wouldn't be for 90 minutes ready yet. And of course he gets injured, which would be a tragedy for him. Yes, it certainly would be. Well, look, we've seen him on the left wing already. So I think it's an entirely plausible option that is something we see, probably not from the start in games, but certainly as substitutions in games, is that it might well happen because we've seen it already. Mikel's shown that it's something he's willing to do. And to be fair, Tierney's actually shown that he's quite capable there. And when he has played in that position, he's put in a couple of lovely crosses and been a threat down that side. So look, Arsenal's options are limited. They don't have many. And I think Tierney is definitely an attacking option that they have in left, because for all the left backs that they have, most of them are the ones that like to cut inside and become that extra man in midfield. We know that, the inverted left back role. Tierney is very old school. We know he loves to get on the overlap, bomb forward. He can score goals. We've seen him do that before as an Arsenal player when he was a regular at left back. So yes, I think it's entirely plausible. Is it a good thing? No. If you're relying on Kieran Tierney to be your left winger, that is not a good thing, because he's a defender first and foremost. But I do think with Arsenal's limited options, it's something we probably will end up seeing between now and the end of the season at times. Aaron says, last year after the Dubai training camp, we managed to get the best out of Havertz. This year, Mikel needs to figure out get the best out of Merino. We all expected a lot more from him, but he had a disappointing first half of the season. He's good at getting past players swiftly, but his passing decisions and qualities need to develop more. If all things go to plan, we sign Zubimendi and possibly one more, maybe Naipan in the summer, Merino will be a substitute. At this rate, I think he's already a substitute, to be fair. I do not really care whether he's on the field or on the bench, but having Merino, a quality player on the bench, does help our depth a lot. What most Arsenal fans want to see, however, is Merino contributing more on the pitch, whether he's starting or coming off the bench. Love the Liverpool goal, but he needs to show that more. I think Merino holds the key into whether we can chase down Liverpool in the second half. I think that last bit's a bit over the top. I don't think Merino holds the key to Arsenal chasing down Liverpool. I think there's a lot of things that maybe hold the key to that, and I'm not sure Mikel Merino is one of them. But I do agree that Arsenal need to get more from him in the second half of the season. We haven't seen, you talk about that Liverpool goal, we haven't seen that anywhere near enough from him. A big reason that Arteta brought him in is he thought he was going to be a real attacking weapon for Arsenal, getting to that back post, arriving late, getting into the box. He's talked about it at length. Whenever he talks about Merino, he believes that's a massive attribute to his game. But I just don't think we've seen it enough. He's never really a threat when he's on the pitch doing that. And you want to see him getting onto those balls more, making those runs more, being that extra man in the box more when he is on the pitch. But I don't know if it's a confidence thing. He's not confident enough to do that, to make those runs. But we're not seeing it enough. And basically, he's not really contributed this season, and that's a real shame. When you spend all summer signing him, I know, and I think it's right to point out the struggles he had early on, the injuries, not having a pre-season, coming off the back of Spain's Euros win, getting injured in his first training session, all of that, and it needs to be pointed out because they are factors. But even so, he's been fit for a long time now, and he does need to be contributing more to this Arsenal team. So you're right, Aaron. It's another thing to add to the priorities list for Arteta to get the best out of Mikel Merino for the second half of the season. Abisham says, I think there's no point crying about the past now. We've got to focus on what we have, and I think we have two options. Sign a free agent or try Calafiori or Tierney in attack. It's a shame, but there's no other option. I don't think Arsenal are going to be signing a free agent. I just don't think there are really many out there who you could sign. I was having a quick list. When I looked at this, I was like, I wonder who is available in a free agent at the moment. And there was no one who jumped out as a real possibility for Arsenal. So I think the second option, as we've already talked about, with Tierney potentially playing in, I see Tierney more as an attacking option than I do Calafiori. I think Calafiori's best attacking traits are more in the central areas. But I think if Arsenal are going to stick with the formation they're currently playing, and again, we'll talk about that in tomorrow's show, then I think Tierney's the one who sort of stands out as a potential option to get on the overlap down that left-hand side and try and hurt the opposition defence. And I think this is the final one. It's from Caleb Powell, who says, I wish people would settle a bit. Yes, silverware is unlikely, but the team is young and about to get way younger with Sterling, Neto, Partey, Jorginho, and 2 or 3 of the left-footed defenders potentially on the way out. Opens up a lot of wage room to play with. We know Zubimendi is likely joining us. Hope for a big window and enjoy Saka and White coming back into the team. A positive post. There's not many of those in the comments at the moment. Honestly, I was going through the comments trying to pull something together, and I was like, my God, this is going to be the most depressing show of all time. And I can understand that because it has been a frustrating couple of days. After that, the higher the Man City game, it's just been a bit disappointing with the lack of signings on deadline day, the disappointing cup exit, the Martinelli news. It's been a difficult few days for Arsenal fans. So, I did thought this was maybe a nice way to end it on a bit of a positive note. We do have to hope for a big summer window. I'm sure we'll get one. I'll be shocked if we don't. We have to. Surely we have to. There's going to be some big signings. There's going to be some attacking signings in the summer. The only issue is it's a long way off and there's a lot of football still to be played. And Arsenal are in a good position to really try and still win something this season. And obviously those attackers who they're going to sign in the summer aren't going to be able to help right now. So we'll see. You say silverware is unlikely. You're probably right, given the options Arsenal have. But, it's still possible. And until it's impossible, then, as football fans, we've got to be able to believe that the team can go on and do it. So thank you to Caleb. Thank you to everyone else who sent in your comments. Appreciate it as always. That is it from me. Like I said, we're going to talk tomorrow, going to focus tomorrow on potential formation change and whether that is something that Mikel Arteta needs to have in his mind going into the next period of games in the absence of Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, and everyone in attack. So that should be an interesting one to talk about. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the end of your weekend wherever you're around the world, and enjoy the Super Bowl later if you're staying up to watch that as well. Have a good one, everyone. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.